What's good, y'all? It's your boy. The time is 2:22. It's December 26th, and it's approximately 34 degrees Fahrenheit for those of you in Eastern Standard Time with me here in New Jersey. Welcome to another episode of Brandon's Fireside Chat. Right now, I'm exhibiting that superpower that some of us people who love campfires seem to have, where no matter what seat you choose, the smoke wants to go directly into your face. So, thank you for joining me on this episode of Brandon's Fireside Chat Live. And thank you to those joining with the re-recording, aired later. I know there ain't shit on TV right now, so if you're scrolling on Facebook or outside enjoying a beautiful day as I am, welcome. Perhaps we can hang out for the next few minutes together. I don't really have an agenda this particular Facebook Live either. Last time I just kind of freestyled. I just like to go in off the top of the dome and talk with you guys and just hang out a little bit. It's a nice way to interact without having to leave the house. And it's also a nice way to interact without actually having to be in the same room with you filthy animals. Intertwining all of our energy together. I get to stay in my own little energy bubble here. I don't have to mix in. My empaths out there know what I'm talking about. Boundaries. It's all about boundaries. Healthy boundaries are important. And a lot of us people who are spiritually sensitive or emotionally sensitive, a lot of us don't have boundaries. We don't know how to say no. We don't know how to say, I'm not comfortable discussing that right now. And we end up getting ourselves into all types of situations where we don't feel well. And then the unevolved, unhealed, empathetic person can turn all of those feelings into, blame and resentment. It's your fault and your fault. If it wasn't for this, then this wouldn't happen. I wouldn't feel this way if you weren't this way. And that is an illusion, because whenever, we feel resentment towards another person, let me keep it on myself. I found in my own experience that when I'm resentful for one reason or another, at the root of that resentment, there's a spotlight shining right on your boy. And it's some type of perspective I'm having on the situation. Or, it could be a miscommunication or a misinterpretation. But generally, it's some type of miss that's attached to my end of it. So, for the unhealed empath, boundaries are so important and yet so difficult to draw that line in the sand and to say, I won't stand for this. Or this is the line. Because when you don't have solid emotional boundaries, your energy field is just porous. And the more sensitive you are, the wider your pores are. And the more of other people's stuff just comes in. And you feel it. Words, unconscious, psychic stuff that's happening that you don't perceive consciously with your ears, but your energy system feels it and knows it and interprets it, So setting boundaries for yourself, saying no when you mean no, voicing your opinion, voicing your emotions, owning how you feel, saying, you know what, there's anger present within me, it doesn't feel good, and then going in a different direction, listening to your body and the signals it's giving you and telling you, this path doesn't feel good. You get that uh-oh feeling, when we more and more make choices that feel better to us. You know what I mean. You make a choice and you're doing the wrong thing and you got that butterflies and just the whole nine. I'm not talking about the kind where you have to do it anyway and that's just you're getting ready because you're about to do something big and your heart's pounding. right before I go on stage, right before I even do a Facebook Live to some extent, you know, I always get this excitement, this rush of like, oh God, I feel like I might pass out. Like, that's different. That's like, you know that there's about to be some attention on you and there's like some responsibility with what you're about to go forth and do. I'm not talking about that. You got to just go with that. When your body is telling you got to do it and you know you have to do it, but you're afraid, that's the kind of fear you green light right through. Brandon's Fireside chat is getting me. Some fear is like a red light, right? The fear tells us everything in your body to stop, turn, run, right? But some of that fear is just your resistance to success that wants to hold you back. So sometimes when you feel the fear and you know it's probably the right thing, even though it might not line up on paper with other people's opinions of how things should go for you, sometimes you look at that fear as a green light and just go anyway. And just power through it. And that's how you break through your comfort zone. This fire is too much. The smoke is just following me. It's better. So the one thing I did want to talk about today, I went off on a little tangent there. I wanted to discuss astrology a little bit because I love it. I've been into astrology, like officially, I guess, for, I don't know, some amount of time. But ever since I can remember, I just have been fascinated with the sky and the stars. And my mom would always have me make sure I look for the full moon, you know? And just noticing throughout time, like certain areas that you are, the sky is just so pristine because there's not that much light pollution. And then other areas, or, you know, or if it's really cloudy. But I've just always been fascinated with all of that. And, you know, I guess my first kind of like conscious connection with astrology and the bodies in the sky affecting us humans on the earth and the cycles was probably learning about the moon and the fact that the tides in the ocean are controlled by the moon. Like, that blew my mind. Like, what? If we didn't have the moon, we wouldn't have tides like that. That was cool. And then, of course, like werewolf folklore, right? Like, wait, people change their behavior when the moon's a certain way? Like, that's kind of cool, right? And then working in a school and then working in EMS, you know, the nurses and teachers always say, like, around a full moon, it's crazy. Like, the crazy comes out during full moons, right? So paying attention to the sky like that and how it has an effect on us. Then I guess my next interaction with astrology would be through learning just like my sun sign. Like, I'm born in May, so I'm a Taurus. So learning my sun sign, that's the area that when you were born, the day, the time, and the place you were born, that there's like an energetic snapshot of all of the bodies in the sky and where they were. All the planets, all the stars, exactly what house they were in the sky, right? All that stuff. It's like a still frame snapshot specific to you. That's your energetic signature. That's called your natal chart. So this snapshot of the planets in the sky at the moment of your birth, at the exact location and time of your birth. So the place where the sun was at that time, the house, mine was in Taurus. So I'm a Taurus. That's my sun sign. So once you learn your sun sign, that's like what all of the Western, you know, like newspaper astrologers, you know, if you look in the back of a magazine, what's the Taurus weekly, you know, thing? It's a little Beaujolais 2020. Cracked it open. It's delicious. It's like delicious. So basically, you know, looking in the back of magazines, like, oh, Taurus, you start to learn things about yourself. You know, Tauruses are supposed to be stubborn, and, you know, you learn basic things about astrology. And then, I don't know, like, recently, the past 2, 3, 4 years, maybe, like, I started doing a lot of meditation and just really going down a bit of a crunchy, hippie, intergalactic kind of path, you know, life on other planets, just possibilities of, you know, lifetimes beyond this one. And, you know, maybe questioning the history that's been written down in our school books, and maybe our history as a species, as humans, goes back further than, mainstream history books say, and things like that. And, I don't know, something like unlocked within me, and I just started to understand space and the planets and the movement of the planets and the cycles of things very clearly. Now, astrology is deep. There's so many different kinds and types, but I've obtained like a nice working definition for myself, like that really helps me make sense of things in a short amount of time. It's like this dormant knowledge was already there, and now I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like the next big thing, I guess, was like, everyone talked about 2012. 2012 is going to be the end of the world, and we were in the age of Pisces up until recently. Even from Jesus' time on the planet, the age of Pisces. And there's a verse in the Bible, he says, I'll be with you even till the end of the age. He's talking about the transition from Pisces to Aquarius, right? Well, the Mayans and some of these ancient people understood these grand cycles that are measured by the movement of the planets. These cycles that go beyond our calendar of 365 days, that's the Gregorian calendar. That's not aligned with anything natural. So these grand cycles, they ascertained that these ages are like 26,000 years. There's this one cycle that's about 26,000 years. Broken up within that, there's smaller cycles of about 5,000 years. And they know that each one of these cycles, we move through an age in space in this big wheel, and they recognize these grand patterns the same way we understand these patterns of, it takes 24 hours for, the earth, blah, blah, blah. Like one day on earth is 24 hours, and 1 year on earth is 300, and, it'll take us this long to get here. They understood that massively to understand how our planet and our solar system travels in our galaxy through space. And it does so in an orderly fashion. And if you look at it up close too much, it looks like a jumbled mess, like there's no order. But when you have the vision to see things from the perspective that you get from these grand scales of time, it gives you a more grounded stance in the midst of chaos. So they understood, right? The Mayan calendar, it said it was supposed to be ending in 2012 or whatever. Well, energetically, so these giant cycles, so we're in the age of Pisces, right? We've just moved into the age of Aquarius. December 21st, 2020, the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter. This conjunction has been talked about for a very long time, and the fact that it happened on the winter solstice signifies many things on many levels, and astrologers would recognize this and are recognizing this as the same way that the Mayans and many other ancient peoples have as the dawning of the age of Aquarius and the move into a new age. But things don't happen naturally. Think about how the seasons change on our planet. It happens slow. You can almost miss it. If you aren't paying attention, if maybe you have an office job or you don't really spend that much time outside during the day, you can say, oh my gosh, we went straight from summer to winter. I can't believe, or, but really, if you're outside, that's one of the things I love about taking a walk every day. No matter rain, sleet, I'm like the mailman. I take a walk every day. You notice the seasons change, and you notice that you have these warm days in the fall and these cold days in the spring, right? It doesn't happen like, all right, it's the first day of winter, boom, now it's snow and it's freezing. No, it comes in waves, these waves. That's how energy moves, right? We know that. Sine, cosine, frequency, radio waves, color vibration. It's all wavelengths. It's waves. So on these grand scales, when we move from age to age, from our perspective, it takes a long time. So like the Aquarian energies are very different. Aquarius is an air sign. Air sign is all about the mental, new ideas, new information, new technology, new ways of doing things. And the Piscean age was about duality and separation, and there's a lot of different energies in each one of these ages. And, you know, all the way back in Jesus' time, at the beginning of the age of Pisces, the age of Aquarius would come in and then wash away, you know, and then it comes back in, and then it's a slow transition. So in 2012, the world didn't end the way that we think that it did, but we did reach a point in space because the planet and the galaxy and all of the planets in our solar system and the Milky Way galaxy and then the Andromeda galaxy, we all travel through space in an orderly fashion, in a predictable, observable, orderly fashion. And the Mayans and all these people that were in touch with, you know, their intergalactic heritage and history that goes on for eons, they understood that as the Earth and the planets and the solar system and the Milky Way galaxy and the Andromeda galaxy and all the countless galaxies and planets that are in space, as they travel through space in the particular spiral that we're on, because that's what the universe is. It's like a corkscrew, and it spirals and ascends up. That's why you're like, I feel like I've been here before. Like history repeats itself, they say, but it's never the same twice. As you're spiraling and ascending, you're becoming lighter and learning more and seeing it from a different perspective. So it never actually repeats. But as it spirals up in space, the ancients understood that there's basically galactic weather, we'll say. And the same way that you might know in your neighborhood, say, if you're very familiar with your neighborhood, you'd be like, don't go down 5th. There's this one pothole. I busted my axle. You want to take Hornberger around, go down 4th. Like, if you know the area, you know the energy patterns, right? So the same way that, so the houses in the sky, you know, Sagittarius, Gemini, Leo, Virgo, Taurus, Aries, Aquarius, Libra, all 12 of them. There's 12 astrological houses in the sky. Each house that's aptly named because it actually is like a household. You know, like if you come to my house, we do things one way. At your house, you might take your shoes off at the door. You don't have to do that at our house. At our house, you come over, we might offer you a drink. Your house, you might already, you know, have chips laid out for your guests. It's each house, like you might be able to spit on the floor in someone's house. You might be able to cuss. Like it's totally different in each astrological house. So the ancients understood that as we move into different places in space, different energy is able to hit our planet. Because the same way we have traffic here on Earth with cars and planes, and we need to know red light means stop because there's a green light for somebody else. Like, as energy is transferred over these vast distances in space, and energy is transferred through stars, the star system, stargates, it's interdimensional, intergalactic. They're batteries that just transfer information instantaneously because light is all that there is. So there's only one thing. So all of the information is available to all of the light instantaneously. And if your species has evolved to a place where you no longer require or desire a physical container to put your consciousness into, because consciousness is just like light energy that's eternal. I'm filling up this meat sack right now, but I've been here forever, baby. I'm not going anywhere. You know what I mean? This is temporary. But what I am, you know what I'm saying? I am the light. You are the light of the world. There's only one thing. So stars are consciousness, energy, transportation systems. Now, the planets also are like, they have personalities. When I say personalities, I'm just talking about energy. The same way I have a personality, I'm an energy signature. I'm a mixture of a certain amount of humor and anger and passive aggression and all these different things wrapped up. That's my personality, my energy signature. The planets are the same way. So depending on where the planets are in the sky and which planets are next to one another at a given time, all that matters. It's the same way as like my two kids. Say my daughter's Mars, my son is Neptune, right? If Mars and Neptune are in, say, Taurus, let's say my house, my physical house is Taurus, my kids are going to act differently than, let's say, if Mars and Neptune are in, let's say, Pisces, which might be my parents' house. My kids are going to behave differently if they're next to one another, maybe in school, which might be Libra. So the way that the planets have personalities, it's the same as people. And depending on where those personalities interact, the interaction is going to be one way or another. Now, depending on the way that the planets are interacting with each other, in what house, that changes the frequency vibration of the areas in space that the light travels through from star to star. So depending on how things are interacting with the planets and where they are in space, certain light might have a red light headed towards Earth. It might say red light for like 100,000 years. Like, space is so big, the timing, right? So we think like, oh my gosh, this never could happen again on Earth. And then all of a sudden, green light, a planet shifts, some starlight information is able to travel to an area of space that it hasn't been to for, as the ancients knew, a predictable, calculable, determinable amount of time. So the conjunction of, Saturn and, hey buddy, drawing a blank here. Thank you. I just got $1.
I bought something.
I'm Facebook Live right now. Do you want to be on?
No. I bought something and it was $1 over on my credit card, or not credit card, gift card. So, yeah.
Thank you. We're teaching financial responsibility with an allowance. And the young lad spent a little too much, so he gave me the overflow because we've allowed him to use the credit card for times such as this. Interesting. So, the ancients realized that, the great conjunction that we just had on September 21st, 2020, signified the beginning of a new age. We are no longer in an earth sign. We're in an air sign. New information coming to us. I lost my train of thought a little bit. Oh, basically just what I wanted to say about that's it. The cycles and the way things that go. The more I'm learning about astrology, and no, astrology is not different than astronomy. Astronomy, it actually separated at one point. Back in the day, to be an astronomer, one that just studies where the bodies in space are and the names and stuff of them, you had to be an astrologer, which was like how do these energies affect the goings on of people and nations and stuff like that. So astrology itself is actually the oldest science on the planet that we have a written record of. The earliest cave paintings that they found, the earliest tablets, it's stars, it's space, it's making sense of the sky, or trying to use the sky to make sense of Earth. So, knowing that, my passion and understanding for astrology lately has given me a new sense of, I want to say, patience, because I am understanding the cyclical nature of things in a different way. And, there's a season for everything. Things are cyclical, and it depends who's interacting, where, for how long, in what way. Like the whole COVID situation, just not being able to go anywhere. That's like a planet being in retrograde. Like if a planet's all about like work and creativity and like interacting in public, let's say that's that planet's personality, and it's just in a retrograde cycle where it's all backwards, or there's a big planet in front of it blocking its path and it can't go, like it's frustrated. So then like, a normally calm Mars is now retrograde in Taurus with Neptune conjunct, and now they're so I'm seeing that, there's a predictability to things, and there's tools to better understand yourself and your place in the world. And for me, astrology has become an interesting tool. It's not the end-all, be-all. It doesn't govern my life. I'm not at the mercy of... I don't say that disrespectfully. I mean, I respect energy and just awareness of like, what? For me, born on this particular day, at this particular time, in this particular place, my energy signature as a Taurus, at this time on the planet, in December, based on where the planets are in the sky, my particular energy signature might be feeling this way. I might be more prone to a wild financial decision, or it's like sometimes I'll listen to these podcasts of these astrologers that I respect, that I go to weekly, and at the the new moon and the full moon, or when there's a big event in the sky, all the main astrologers will have their take on it, and I have the ones that vibrate and resonate with me in a way that I trust what they have to say. And when these astrologers will say, because sometimes I'll look like at my weekly Taurus, like what to expect this week, or Taurus, your month of December. And doggone it, if a lot of the time, as I'm out for my walk, because that's what I like to do. I like to go out for a walk, connect with nature, put my headphones on, and listen to like an astrology podcast. And I zone out, and I'm just listening to, and as I'm listening, like, word pictures are coming to me, and I'm thinking about people and situations in my life, and it's this meditative state where the words of the podcast have double entendre spiritual meaning for me, and it becomes an exercise, a literal exercise as I walk, but a spiritual exercise as well, as I process what might be happening based on where the planets are and how they may be affecting me uniquely. So it's been a fun exercise to learn about astrology. I really, really enjoy it as a science that can be studied and like a legitimate situation. So that's what I do. I've said that I do birth chart readings. I started this business, Intergalactic Hippie, birth chart readings. Well, that's what I do. All of my readings are via email. All I need is somebody's date of birth, their time of birth. That one's important. Not everybody has the time of birth. It matters because the planets are always moving. So like half hour later, the sun might be in a different house, which would make you a different sun sign, which your energy is just going to vibrate differently and your reading just won't be as accurate. So you need date of birth, time of birth, and place of birth. And based on that information, I can look at the place the planets were in the sky. And based on which constellations were in alignment with Earth and the other planets at the time of your birth, I can tell if your unique energy signature is made up of lifetimes in other star systems. In the same way, the different astrological houses have different energy. Like Taurus is one way, Not as a rubber. You can't just be like, you're a Taurus, you're this way. Because we all have our different flow in the mix. But like Taurus, Libra, Aries, like different. The same way that you can kind of learn more about yourself through your horoscope and through the placement of the planets in your natal chart, you can learn a lot about yourself by finding out which star systems have influenced your unique energy signature. Because most major religions in the world say that the soul is eternal, that the body's a tent, that science says energy's not created or destroyed, it's just transferred from one form to another. It's like the law of thermodynamics. Like, it's not that much of a jump for us to recognize that, like, the body and the container that things is in changes, but, like, the energy signature that the thing is, the consciousness, the I am that I am, is. It was, it is, and it is to come. It will be, like, it just is. It's timeless. So to say, like, my energy signature, my soul, is timeless, well, you're much deeper than the 65 years, 34 years, 28 years that you've been on this planet. We're taught that, like, you're born clean slate. And, like, in order for our consciousness to incarnate in a planet like Earth with its current density, and that's what the Ascension process is all about, the lightening up of the planet and the people on it. But, like, in order to incarnate on a third dimensional, past, present, future, dualistic, I'm right, you're wrong place, you have to go through what's called a veil of forgetfulness. In essence, we, like, unplug from that part of our energy signature that goes beyond this lifetime. It's there. It's what scientists call the junk DNA. They don't understand, like, 90% of what's in our DNA. The other parts are, like, that's the part of us that has to get unplugged in order to fit into this matrix reality on Earth. So once you go through the veil of forgetfulness, well, then you're like a clean slate, and then you're just you're programmed by your parents, you're programmed by school, you're programmed by the media, you're programmed by WWF, and just everything. You just become like, you're just like a little sticky spitball, and everything that you like sticks to you. And I'm this, and I'm that, and this is my personality. And, like, then you go through some type of a process Maybe COVID did it for you. Maybe a loved one died. Maybe somebody divorced you. Maybe you got the cancer. Excuse me. Whatever happened, something happened. Something happened that pulled the carpet out from under your feet and flipped your world completely upside down. And all of those little nice sticky things that used to define you. I'm the owner of this company and I have a 6-pack and well, I drive this car. All that stuff, right? Something happens and all that stuff falls off you. You don't have it anymore. You don't know who you are. You're in essence stripped away. A lot of us go through that, right? A lot of us go through many of those. Mm-hmm. But it's like at that point of everything I thought I was, everything I thought I would be, everything I feared I'd become, like everything, all of it, like it just falls away and you're just left with what is. And like that's when you start to own the parts of yourself that maybe you were afraid to look at. I started off by talking about resentments, you know, all the things that we blamed other people for our entire lives. If only this didn't happen, if it wasn't for that person. If I didn't do this, we beat ourselves up. What an a-hole. You know, when we start to look at all that stuff and take the story out of it and just say, like, this happened, that happened, I did that, it's not who I am. Like, when you start to own all that stuff and start to recognize, like I talked about before, that like light is able to travel through stars at the speed of light, in essence, because like light is all that there really is. Like shadow is just like a misinterpretation of what is. Light is the only substance. So in essence, even the speed of light is misunderstood because light isn't moving. It doesn't go anywhere. There's nowhere for it to go. Light is all that there is. So like is can't, there's no is not. So like when we say the speed of light, it's kind of misunderstood because there's nowhere for it to go. It's already there. The shadow is the like doubt or the misunderstanding that it's not there. And that's why we have to go through the veil of forgetfulness to incarnate in a 3D planet like Earth, because like there has to be cause and effect. There has to be like, well, this happened, so this is the result of that. And that allows us to blame other people. If I didn't get fired, my boss is a blah, blah, blah. Or, you know, if it wasn't for this girl, you know, I should have, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. Like when we go through that place that we're no longer able to do that, because the same way that light is all that there is, each point of consciousness, me, you, your dog, your cat, your fern in the corner, the trees, a bird, like every point of consciousness that can be experienced, it's all the same. I am you, you are me, I'm your cat. Like and that's the purpose like of life, just to experience each individuated point of consciousness. Just to see what it's like to interact this way, you know? When we get to that point where we're no longer able to blame others or circumstances or situations, we're no longer defined by our traumas, when we're able to own our responsibility in all things and say, I made that choice, when we're able to reclaim our sovereignty and not wait for anybody or anything to come along and save us or to add to us or to take away something that, you know, this broken part of us, like when we step into the fullness of who we are and realize that that person that I've been blaming, that hatred I've been holding in my heart, like there's a go round where I experienced that point of consciousness. How would I want to be treated? When you get to that point, it's really hard to blame anybody or anything. It's really hard not to put yourself in the other person's shoes and be like, I really want to be mad at this person. I really want to. But then you're like, well, I get it. I get it. And like, that's one of the things that I've learned about myself. You know, when you get to that point when you can no longer blame anybody or anything, you've gotten to a place where it just is what it is. You're not waiting for anything to come and make you better. And you're not looking for anything to come and save you from something scary. You're just here. Then you start to tap into that dormant part of yourself that was unplugged during the veil of forgetfulness. And that's when you start to tap back into these parts of your unique soul, your unique energy signature that has lived more incarnations than the physical container that you're in right now. And like, I tapped into that shit, and that's how I understand astrology all of a sudden. I never read a book on astrology. I just like listened to some podcasts and went for a walk, and through meditation I just get it. Like, there's so much dormant stuff, skills, gifts. I don't know if you guys have been experiencing a lot of it. I mean, one thing is the number synchronicities. Usually you see like 1111 a lot, maybe 1212, 1010, 222, 333, 555, 444. Maybe you wake up between 2 and 4 o'clock every day in the morning. Maybe, you know, that kind of thing starts to get your attention. Those are like little alarm clocks. You look at that stuff and it's like coding. Like, wakes up that dormant part in you, you know? It's quite a process. It's a painful process because you're to get to the point where you see yourself in all things. You feel all of it. All the repressed trauma and all the blame that you've given other people that you've been trying to save yourself from. You take the weight of the world upon yourself. Not in a martyr kind of way, but in a putting yourself in another person's shoes kind of way. But that's what's so cool, because there's this science using natal astrology, using your birth chart, using the position of the planets at the time of your birth and the place of your birth. You can tell, like, you have a soul and an energy signature that's affected by lifetimes in the Pleiades. And like, the Pleiades is a star system that we know about. Like, it's right there. Like, it's gonna be there in a couple of hours. Like, I know it. If you see Orion's belt, there's 3 stars. You go up a little bit and to the right, there's a cluster that you can see with your naked eye. You can see 7 stars. It's called the 7 Sisters, but there's hundreds of stars there. It's about 444 light years away from us. Like, if you're born at a certain time on a certain day at a certain place, like, we know that. And because Native American peoples have written this stuff down, and they've told people, like, when children are born, when we can see this thing in the sky, this stuff happens. These people are different. They're star children. Like, and we're starting to get to the place where we're learning our culture and our current understanding of our place in space and Earth's history. You know, we're starting to realize that it goes much deeper than maybe what the geological record shows, or based on, you know, what modern history books are said in school. It's cool. So using science, you can say, like, well, you have Syrian galactic lineage, you know, or like you have lineage from Alpha Draconis. Your energy signature is influenced by reptilian lifetimes, you know? And it's like, I did the birth charts of a husband and a wife, and the husband was Andromedan, and the wife was reptilian. And like, they're worst enemies. The reptilians, if you believe or, you know, look into galactic history, you know, they're thought to be quite menacing throughout galaxies. Not all, because just like people, nobody's all good or all bad. There's warriors of light everywhere. So you can never write off. But if you Google reptilian race or like reptilian anything on, you're going to come up with a lot of like fourth dimensional stuff. I gave a talk a week or two ago about Ascension. It's on my timeline probably, or under my saved videos. What is Ascension, and what are the dimensions, third through fifth? And that fourth dimension, man, if you Google reptilian races and stuff like that, you'll get a lot of just like kind of scary fear-based stuff about how, you know, our planet's been controlled by that type of thinking for a long time. You know, the times are changing, and that's what's so interesting about this grand conjunction that we just had on the winter solstice, because the winter solstice, December 21st, is the shortest day of the year, so it's the darkest day of the year. The sun is in the sky the longest, you know, and from the 21st to the 25th, the sun in essence stands still. Anything that has stood still for 3 days has thought to be dead, right? So that the sun dies for 3 days between the 21st and the 25th every year on the solstice. And this year, when that happened during those 3 days, the grander cycles were in a line, right? Because we're changing the end of this 26,000 year cycle that these ancient peoples and Mayans understood was coming to a close at the same time that Jupiter and Saturn were conjunct again, which happens every 20 years. And then also the fact that a season was changing. There was like 3 or 4 cycles coming to a close at the same time. And that's what was so powerful about it, because the way that everything in space was aligned at that time, the galactic traffic, the way that the red lights and the green lights were situated so that the energy could travel throughout space to the places that it did and will continue to travel. That's what's exciting. Where, like I said, how the energy washes in waves. We get a taste of it, right? And then like we're drawn back into this dualistic, like an election will do it, and just all this stuff is and then it's unity and peace and we're all together, and then like these waves. Well, that happens, you know, hundreds of years, thousands as these cycles change, and then you sink into the energy. And it's like if you've ever done like a psychedelic of some type of mushroom or like a acid tablet or something, like it comes on slow. It's like you feel like you're going up, like something's happening, and you feel like you're going up on a roller coaster, right? And you get to the top, and then they call like the energy peaks like a wave, like a crest, comes in really strong and then breaks, and then it comes in really strong and then breaks. So the place that we're at now, because of the conjunction of these planets that we've just experienced, it's the beginning of a time when we're just being bathed, absolutely bathed in this like higher dimensional gamma light from these places in the universe that weren't able to hit us before, because there was a big giant galactic stop sign. So now that we're being bathed in this light, the stuff in our DNA that we've been unplugged from in order to incarnate here in the density of a third dimensional planet the situations and circumstances necessary to ascend out of that and tap back into who you really are. You're the infinite nature of who you are, and your galactic lineage, and just the part of you that doesn't die. Normally, like, you would have to die and then jump in a new body to do that. Like, we're going through an ascension process now where our energy frequency is being tuned like a radio station from a third dimensional one of duality, of I'm right, you're wrong, there's a yes, there's a no, there's an up, there's a down, black, gray, what, like all these, it's being tuned from a place of fear and lack and perceived just competition and the need to label and judge, and there's a good, there's a bad, there's a better, there's a best. There's just a constant comparison to what could be and a never feeling like enough. And then we're being tuned through the fourth dimension where we're forced to deal with all of our own junk, all of the things we blamed other people for, all of the resentments that we hold, all of the things that we're waiting to change, so then we'll give ourselves permission to be okay. Like, once we work through all that and we claim responsibility for our own happiness and our own peace and our own joy, and we create our own boundaries and we say, this is my house. I'm talking about my own body. This is my house. And like, as for me, like, I will serve the I am that I am. Like, if something doesn't feel good to me, I'm going to listen to that. And that's how I feel my safest. When we step through that place of like needing other people to accept everything we do, or needing other people to like us or approve of everything that we do, or when we feel comfortable saying no because we mean no, or saying yes because we mean yes. When we go through that fourth dimensional place, right, we end up in the place of I am in all things, and how could I judge you, because given the right situation and circumstances, I would be in your shoes. I get it. Then we're at a place where things aren't good, things aren't bad, they just are. From that place of not needing to make anything happen, we open ourselves up to all this interesting stuff. And some of that for me has been astrology. So thank you for letting me share with you this afternoon. I rambled on for quite some time. I really appreciate those of you that shared this backyard fireside chat with me. I really enjoy talking about this stuff. I love space. I love the planets and the way that they interact with our personal energy. And if anybody's interested, I don't want to say that because if this gets a ton of... So if you really are interested, I have good resources. I know a couple astrologers that resonate really well with me. But if you're going to go on YouTube, if you're interested at all in astrology, I will say to you, use your intuition. Always, no matter who you are, no matter what you're doing. Trust your body. Trust your intuition. Trust what your energy is telling you about everything. But I know, like, when I listen to some YouTube things, I'm like, oh God, this person. And sometimes it's just an experience. Like, people that are super duper into energy and astrology might be watching my video and they might be like, this guy, this little baby astrologer, he don't know shit. Don't listen to this guy. I don't know. That's okay. But for me, certain astrologers really ring true. And the way that I can tell, for me, for anything, for any leader that's talking, for anybody that's talking, the media, a headline, one of my major gauges on whether, for me, it's something I want to invest my attention and time into is what station am I listening to? And I'm not talking about CNN or Fox or 91.7 WLFR. I'm talking about, are we third dimensional? Is this station, this channel, this piece of information, this issue that seems so important, is it creating a sense of peace, joy, and love within me? Or am I getting wound up tighter? And am I feeling more afraid? Because that's third dimensional living. And we do have a choice once we're aware that we have a choice. But if we're not aware that there's a choice, that we don't have to look at that stuff and pay attention to things that make us feel bad, we can't see it until somebody shows it to us. And then once we see it, we have a choice. Whatever you put your time and attention into, that's what you're going to see. Think of the hangnail on your hand. A hangnail can control your life for 4 days, 3 days. You keep picking at it and digging at a hangnail, that thing will never heal. The more you look at it, the more you think about it, the more you pay attention to it, the more you pick at it, that thing's going to get infected. It's going to get way worse, right? But the second, when does a hangnail go away? The second you forget about it, you're like, oh my God, I had this that thing ruined my life. I almost called out of work because I had a hangnail. It's like that with anything. What we continuously look at and look for, we're going to see. And as hard as it is, because for whatever reason, the things that cause us pain, we want to pick at. I had this pain in my chest the other day. Not like a cardiac situation, but like a muscle. And I could find the point, the pressure point. And when I would find that one spot and push, oh, it hurt so good. And I would push on it, and then it would like shake and move, and it would feel good. But it would, so like all day long I was pushing on this one spot. Well, I was so inflamed from, it's all I could think about for like a couple days. I'm just going about my day like, oh my God, do I need to go to the doctor? Like, now if I would have kept picking at it and worrying about it and feeding this fear of what could be and making it what, then I go to the doctor, and then he's like, well, yeah, we could put you on steroids or whatever. And then now I'd be taking a pill or something. And then, well, although we could always do surgery, we could just take it out of there. Now I have or what I did was I put some ice on it, and I said, I'm going to leave it alone. I'm not going to pay attention to this. I'm not going to put my time and my effort and I'm not going to expend my energy about what could be. I'm just going to allow it to be what it is. And I let go, I stopped thinking about it. And I woke up the next morning, and I basically forgot that had happened until later in the day. I was like, wow, I haven't thought about my chest. Wow. Like, the second we forget and take our attention away from things, the quicker we'll stop manifesting them. Some things that require our attention right away. If your bone is popping out of your skin, you might want to go get that checked out right now. If you're geysering blood, like, stop the bleeding. Some things, and you'll know. That's it. Like, the things that need a time and attention right away, like, you'll know. It'll be clear and apparent. The what ifs and the what could be's and the, like, that stuff, for me, the greatest amount of peace and joy and serenity shows up for me when I just recognize that a lot of this stuff is cyclical, and there's a season of things and a time of things, and the way that it is now, it's not going to always be. And for me to listen to my intuition and act when it's clear that action needs to be taken, and like the rest of the time, take my thinking cap off about the thing that's causing me pain. Because the more I focus on the thing that causes me pain, the more I find the pain, because that's what I'm looking for and expecting. This has been a fireside chat with your boy, Oh yeah, I was saying if you like astrology, I'll give you some people if you're interested that I like their podcasts, but use your intuition because they may not resonate with you. This is it, and then I'm out. The teachers that install the fear. That's it. If I'm listening to a message, be it anything, what station, what's coming through? Is it fear? Is it third dimensional separation and right and wrong? Or is it unconditional love? Is it acceptance? Is it peace? Is it grace? Is it mercy? Because we have a choice and we can pay attention to whatever we want to pay attention to. We all have unlimited amounts. That's debatable, but we all have a certain amount of attention and we can invest it wherever we want. And you're free to invest it in things that are painful to you. You just are. We all are. But when you invest it in things that make you feel good, all of a sudden, that's the stuff you see. You see more of the stuff that you like. But like I said, man, if something is a bone sticking out of the skin for you, by all means, even if it seems scary, take action. Listen to your intuition. Sometimes fear is a red light, telling you just like, relax, man. Maybe it's not the way it seems. Let things play out a bit. But sometimes that fear is like, you got something big coming up here. Do it. Find that thing that, not only that, like, you're worth dying for, but, like, find the thing that's worth living for. Like, find the thing that wakes you up in the morning and excites you. What do you like doing? Do that. Do more of that. Focus on that. I'm shiny as a motherfucker right now. All right, guys. I love you all. Thank you for joining me. Peace out.